What's up everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to go over how to properly enqueue your scripts and styles within your WordPress theme. The way I'm going to demonstrate this process is going to ensure 100% compatibility with any website using your theme and with any plugins that might be loaded on your website. This video is targeted for theme developers and those looking to learn how to properly create WordPress themes that they could use on their websites or any website that might be using their theme. Alright, there's a correct way to do this and there's an incorrect way to do this. There's also the more established way to do this and there's a newer way to get this done. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So this is part of an ongoing effort to teach people how to code a WordPress theme, and I have on my website PixemWeb.com. If you go over here to WordPress themes, you're going to see I have this theme over here, Learn to Code and Get DevWP. So what DevWP is, it is a training theme that I'm using to teach people how to code. This is the foundation video right here, and I show you all the code that I use while developing the theme. I show you my exact process, and I go into deep detail on what you need to do to code a WordPress theme in the correct way. If you want to get all the files in advance, you can go over here to Get DevWP. You fill out this form, and for just $10, you'll get access to the DevWP theme itself. Once you fill this out, you'll create a username and you'll be given authorization to access my website in the backend, and in the dashboard will be a link for you to download the DevWP WordPress training theme. So definitely check that out. Alright, so let's jump over here to my text editor. I'm going to be using the Atom text editor for this demonstration. I do jump back and forth between Atom and Visual Studio Code. They are both great text editors. They're both free. And they give you a lot of the functionality you need in order to properly code, whether it's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or PHP, etc. I do also use a professional tool called PHP Storm, and as a WordPress developer, I find it extremely helpful. But for these videos, I'm just going to be using the Atom text editor and Visual Studio Code. Alright, so when you register a script or style, you typically do it within your functions.php file. So here I am on my DevWP local installation, and you see the file path over here. I'm within the functions.php file in my DevWP theme itself. Alright, so I'm going to scroll down, and we see over here that we have the section for enqueue scripts and styles. We have the function DevWP_scripts, and despite the name, we can do both enqueue style and enqueue scripts right within this function right here. And then towards the bottom, we use the add action, WP enqueue scripts, and DevWP_scripts right here. In here we enqueued a couple of files already, and this I already demonstrated within previous videos, but I want to go over what this is exactly doing. So here we're going to be enqueuing the style, and we're getting the bootstrap.min.css. And if you see the folder path over here, this is the destination of it. Here we have the handle that's being used. Now the handle is a unique name that you can use for that particular style or script. So that's very important, and you should prefix all your styles and scripts and functions with something that's unique. That way you won't run into any conflicts with any other plugins that might be installed on your website. And then over here we're using the get template directory URI function. Now the reason why we're doing this is because we don't want to have an absolute path. Now why is that? You might see that some people will have a direct path to the actual root of the website itself. But the problem is that that theme will only work with that particular website. If you try to transfer that theme to another website, the absolute path is not going to work. So that's why you don't want to have an absolute path, and you want to use this get template directory URI function. And then we're going to be adding to the path the distribution folder that's over here, CSS folder that's inside there, and then we're going to be looking for the bootstrap.min.css. So this is the correct way to get this done. Now there's another way to get this done, and I'm going to show you how that is. It's a newer way, and if we go over here to the 2017 theme, and we go to the functions file right here, I'm going to scroll all the way down to where they're enqueuing their scripts and styles. Alright, so this is their section where they enqueue scripts and styles. You see they use the same format that I'm using over here, and they start off with the enqueue style, and they enqueuing the fonts, then they enqueue the style sheet that they're using, Then they have an if conditional over here. And I'm going to cover this in a minute of why this is important to do. This is key for the performance and optimization of your theme, because you don't generally want to have every single CSS file or JavaScript file loaded on every single page. Because if a particular piece of functionality is not being used on that page, why take the performance hit? So that's why you have this if conditional that you'll see in a couple of sections over here. But you notice over here, they're not using the get template directory URI function. What they're using here is a get theme file URI. Now this is newer. This is introduced within WordPress 4.7. And this is a newer way to get the URL of a file within a particular theme. But again, this is for WordPress 4.7 and up. So if you're creating a theme that you think might be used in an older version of WordPress, and seriously, you should always make sure your WordPress installation is updated. But if you want to make sure that you have backwards compatibility, for now you should still be using the get template directory URI. But I just wanted to make sure that you knew that this function right here is brand new and is available for you. Now you could use this function for both styles and scripts. All right, so let's continue over here. Go back to DevWP. So we have over here the WP Enqueue style for Bootstrap. We have the Font Awesome script over here as well. And we have our main style sheet as well. Now, if we go over here, you're going to see that we have some additional parameters that we're introducing here. So in the WP Enqueue script, and this is the same for styles as well, you can also use this as well. We have our unique handle. We're using the get template directory URI function, as we mentioned. And we're adding to that path the source folder, JS folder, popper.min.js. So that'll give you the exact path for that particular file. Now what we have here is an array. Now the reason why we have this array here is because if there's any dependencies that's required by that file, we'll make sure that's loaded first before this file is called. Now that's important. So here we have nothing there. You could also just have it as an empty string right there as a placeholder. Now what this number is over here, this is a version number. So whenever you make an update to this particular file, then you're going to want to bump this number up so that way WordPress itself knows that they have to use the newest version of that file. And now this Boolean value over here for true means that we're going to load this within the footer of our website. Now this is to prevent render blocking issues for your site. Now jQuery should be in the head section, so that's going to always come first because you're going to see that some files will definitely depend on it. So that's why you want to make sure you have jQuery on top. And by default, that's the case. So you don't have to change that. And then over here, you see we have this if conditional, if is singular and comments open and get option thread comments. We're going to be enqueuing the comment reply script. Now, what is this? Why is this formatted in this way with the WP Enqueue script with only the handle? Well, the reason for this is because, again, you don't need to have every script loaded on every single page of your site. So you have the if conditional over here first, but then we're going to be calling in a pre-registered script or style, in this case a script. Now, if I scroll up over here, I don't see anything registered. I just see everything enqueued. Now, this is standard because on every single page, these files are going to be needed. So this is okay because when you enqueue a style or script, it also registers it and it lets WordPress know that that style or script is available to be used by your website. And it's also helpful because other plugins will be aware of that particular file. Now, if you wanted to register a script, you can do that as well. Now, the use case for this would be if you have a particular slider that may not be on the home page and may only be on a particular page, well, then you don't want to always have it loading, but you may want to have it available. So let's look at how we can actually register a script. All right, so I'm going to go up here just to show you the demonstration of registering a script, and this can be done for a style as well. Actually, I'm going to bring it over here to the script section, and I'll put it after this if conditional over here. Make myself some space. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type out WP underscore register underscore script. Put your parentheses right there. And we're going to be adding in all the parameters required to register a script. So we're going to put in our handle, which we're going to prefix with DevWP. And I'll put custom script. And you want to make sure that you have these in single quotation marks like that. And then outside of that single quotation mark, we'll put a comma. So here we have our first handle. Let me bring this up. And now we're going to be putting in the actual path itself. So we're going to type out the actual function get template directory URI. Put in our parentheses right there. Then outside that closing parentheses, we'll give ourselves a space, put a period, and then give ourselves another space. Put in our single quotation marks, and we're going to put in the path. So let's say that that file will be located over here in our distribution folder. So we'll type out a / distribution folder, and then we're going to go into, let's say, our JavaScript folder. Put in JS / and then let's say the file is going to be called custom page.js. All right, so now we have our path. Go outside the single quotation marks, put ourselves another comma, and let's say that it's going to be dependent on jQuery. So then we'll just type out jQuery, go outside the single quotation mark, and go outside the parentheses there. Now, if you need it to be dependent on another library as well, you can put that here as well, because this is an array, so you'll be able to put in another dependency there if you needed it. So now we'll put in another comma. We'll give it a version number, let's say 1.0. Go outside there, that single quotation mark, put a comma, and then you can either put true if you want it to be located in the footer of your website, or you can put false if you want it to be located in the head section of your website. And that's it. So now over here, let's say we needed to enqueue it. So you could do what we did up here. We can have an if conditional, if is singular, and let's say it's a particular page or a custom post type or another conditional tag that you want to use. We can then load it. So you would take this conditional tag over here, something similar, and then you would just enqueue script. Make sure you put your closing semicolon there. You always want to make sure you have your closing semicolons. All right, so we'll go WP enqueue scripts like that. Put your parentheses, single quotation marks, and then we're going to take this right here. We'll copy that, paste it right there. We'll put our closing semicolon right there, and we're good to go. And the same thing can be true for the style itself. You have WP_register_style, and you can have your if conditional as well. Now, this is the proper way to make sure that your theme is optimized by not having to have every single JavaScript file or CSS file loaded on every single page. You could register it and enqueue it only on the pages that you need by using if conditionals, just as we did over here. This will definitely be a performance enhancement and will make sure that your theme is properly optimized and works well with every website and with any plugins that are loaded on your website. Now, what if you're using a CDN? CDNs are great because they're also well optimized, and it's often found that a person visiting a website would have already loaded a particular file from a CDN, so that reduces the amount of HTTP requests from your website itself. Alright, so if we scroll up over here, we can see that what we did over here is we deregistered a script, jQuery, and we enqueued jQuery and from the googleapis.com because we're using a particular version of jQuery. We have the array, null, false. So what we did here is we deregistered the script first because you don't want to have it load twice. And now we just enqueued it by putting in the actual handle and the direct URL. Now this is okay to use a direct absolute URL because this is not hosted on your website. This is hosted on an established website, is the Google APIs, and this is not going to change. So that's why this is okay. And then we have our array, we have the version number, and we're making sure that this loads within the head section of our website. So that's how you enqueue a script, and you can do it the same way with a style from a CDN. And there's plenty of CDNs out there that host a lot of scripts and styles that you might find beneficial to use. Alright, so that's pretty much how you register a script and a style. And now let's go over here, and I'm just going to show you the register style. Now again, we're using the handle, the source, any dependencies, the version number, and what's different with this one is that we have the media option. Now this is optional. You don't have to have this, but let's say you're going to register a specific style for the iPhone, or if you're going to have a specific style that you want when someone prints out your web page. So you can have the media type. So for this, we can just put single quotation marks and let's say all if we want it to be for everything, or you can have it for screen like that, or handheld, or print. So that's how you do that. And then you would enqueue it the same way. You would just put in WP underscore enqueue underscore style, and then you would take your handle and you would use it there. So should you register all your scripts and styles? Well, it's not necessary to always register them, because when you enqueue them, it already registers them. And when you're going to do that for a particular style that's going to be used, or a particular script that's going to be used all over your website, then it makes sense just to enqueue it from the inception. But if you're not going to use it on every single page, then you may want to register it first and then enqueue it when needed. Now, why didn't they register it here? Well, the reason is because this is already pre-registered within WordPress itself. And I believe if we go over here, we have all the JavaScript files that are available to you. Now, there's a lot of them. So definitely, if you want to dive deep into what's exactly being used, you can go into the root of your directory or your website to the WordPress core, take a look at what's being used or what's available for you. And over here, they are all registered. So that's why you only have to enqueue it when you're going to be using it if it's already available to you elsewhere. So again, the thing to remember is you don't want to have an absolute path, because an absolute path to the root of your website means that that theme will not be available to be used on another website, because that URL is going to be different. Definitely use the functions that are built into WordPress. They're there for a reason, and they'll ensure that your theme is 100% compatible with every single WordPress website. And if you want to use the newer functions, we can use the get theme file URI. Now, what if this is a child theme? What if we were making a child theme of DevWP? Would we still use this function? The answer is no. We would use a different function in order to get this done. And instead of get template directory URI, we would use this function right here, get style sheet directory URI. And this will make it work if you're using a child theme. This is the preferred function for that. Now, what about if you're developing a plugin? And yes, this video is targeted for theme developers, but you also want to make sure that you're enqueuing your styles and scripts properly as a plugin developer. So instead of using these functions right here, you would use something like this, plugins URL. And then in here is where you would put in the exact file path. So we'll cut that out, put that in there in that manner. And instead of using a period, we would just go ahead and put a comma, put in a space, double underscore, file, double underscore. And then we want to take this closing parentheses here, and we're going to put it over here towards the end. And you want to make sure that your parentheses and your syntax is properly formatted. So you see it matches up there and it matches up there. So that's properly done. Now this is for plugins, not for themes. Just remember that. So now I'm just going to go back to the way it was before, and that's that. All right, so now we just saw how to properly enqueue scripts and styles within our WordPress theme. Now, if you look at some older tutorials, you might find some other ways that people get this done. All right, so let me show you over here what I mean. If you go over here, you might see some people in older tutorials, and back then it was correct to do it this way, but it's no longer correct. You would see them putting in the style sheet here within the head section. And again, this is not the way to do it. I just want to demonstrate it so you can understand what's taking place if you see this within an older tutorial or in an older theme. So you're going to see that maybe somebody has a link tag right up here, and they're going to put in the location of it. So they'll put rel equals quotation marks, and they'll say something like style sheet. They'll go outside there, put href equals quotation marks, and then they'll put in some PHP. They'll put blog info, parentheses, single quotation marks, and then they'll put the style sheet underscore URL. Then they'll go outside here. They'll put their semicolon, as you always should. Then they'll close off their PHP. And they can put in the type equals quotation marks, let's say text / CSS. And then they'll put in media equals screen, and let's say projection. Then they'll close that off. Let me make sure I did that correctly. We have the link tag right there. We have the rel equals quotation marks style sheet. Then we have the href, which is the location. Then we're using the blog info function, which still works within WordPress, but this is not the recommended way to get this done. And then you would put your style sheet URL, close that off, close off your PHP, go back into HTML. You put your type, which is text and CSS, your media, screen, and projections, and then close that off. This is not recommended. This is not the best way to do it, but it's something that you might find within older tutorials. But don't use this way. I just wanted to demonstrate how you might see it elsewhere. You might even see it hard-coded, where in a static website, you'll see a hard-coded URL. That's also not recommended because it won't be registered or properly enqueued, which means that other plugins may not be aware that you're using a particular JavaScript file or a style sheet. Now, why is that important? Well, when you load a website, you want to make sure that you load it in an optimized fashion, that the performance of it is on point. Now, if you already have jQuery installed, why would you want to have it installed twice or loaded twice? That will be a performance hit. So that's something you definitely don't want to worry about. So if you enqueue it the proper way and register it the proper way, this is something you won't have to be concerned with. All right. So that's that. You'll also notice that for our main style sheet, we're just using the get style sheet URI function right here. It's different than the other ones. This is the main style sheet. So WordPress will know to go over here and get this style sheet right there. So now we covered how to properly register and enqueue scripts and styles within WordPress, what to do to make it 100% compatible, and what not to do. Again, this video is targeted for theme developers and those looking to develop themes that they could use on their websites or on websites they use for clients or distribute to the world. You want to make sure that your theme works with every single website and not just yours. That is why I do not recommend at all using absolute paths to the root of your website. If you do this, your theme, if used on another site, will break. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, if I'm only going to use it on my website, if it's a custom theme that I'm only using for myself, then is this still a concern? Well, the answer is still yes, because what if you change your domain name? It's common for people to rebrand themselves after a couple of years. Maybe their particular niche is going to change, or maybe they find a different name that they feel is more useful for their brand. If you have the absolute path coded right within your theme, then it won't work with the brand new site. It'll break unless you update it. So this is to prevent headaches. And if you want to learn how to code a WordPress theme from scratch and see the process step by step, make sure you go to my website and take a look at this video. You'll see it on my YouTube channel. We'll go right here, and the video you're looking for is going to be this one right here. It's a very long video, but it's very thorough and gives you all the information you need. Again, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.